G'day and welcome to Media Tech Talk. I'm David Richards.
And I'm Paul Luckett. What happens when advertising no longer relies on identity, but on understanding? From agency strategy roles at Worldwide and Bohemia to building high-growth commercial teams at REA Group, Chris Manson has spent nearly 2 decades shaping how media connects brands and audiences. Today, as Country Director for Australia and New Zealand at Ogury, he leads the expansion of this fast-growing advertising platform, pioneering what it calls persona intelligence in a market navigating signal loss and artificial intelligence disruption.
So here's the question. If the advertising signals that powered the last decade are disappearing, what exactly is signal loss? How do we fix it? And what replaces it? Chris, welcome to the show. You're joining us from Sydney. Whereabouts in Sydney is Ogury located?
Hey, David. Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me, guys. So Ogury, we've got our offices based in bang in the CBD, George Street, CBD. I'm based up in Central Coast at the moment,
Wow.
as proven by my terrible tan. But that's we've been based in Sydney for the last 5 years. We launched the Ogury office when we were in Australia back right on Manly Beach, bang on lockdown day, COVID 6 years ago as well, which highly recommend anyone launching a business to just chuck it in Manly for a year.
Yeah, Paul and I have talked a lot about COVID and the changes that we saw in the industry as a reset almost. Obviously, video conferencing was one of those, and obviously NBN getting its moving from ADSL to what we have now is fiber to the curb or house. Bandwidth speeds and et cetera have increased, so that's obviously been to your benefit too.
That's it, exactly right.
Yeah. Hey, let's have a look and do you want to tell us a little bit about your journey into ad tech and how you came to lead in your current role at Ogury?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I started with Ogury, what was it, 6 years ago now. My journey was agency born and raised. I was thrown into 8 years at University of McCann back then, which was, an environment that taught me what hard work is back then as a first sort of job. Went through a journey of discovering that, the relationships that you build in this industry are critical, regardless of who they are, what sort of line of business they might be in. Every touch point that you have is critical. So picked a lot up in that agency sort of space. There was a journey I went through at Bohemia as well. Sharpest learning curve I think I've had in my career was at Bohemia. Yeah. It was on the early days of that agency as well. I guess like any independent agency, the people lucky in the industry to be working independents, they get exposed to incredibly talented senior staff at all levels. Which is why that learning curve was so great. Bohemia, the staff there, they were masters of strategy, they were masters of storytelling, and I definitely took a lot from them. I'll always sort of recall them. Something that I still run with these days as well is a mantra that Brett Dawson, the founder, sort of put to me quite a lot, which is everything communicates. Everything you do, every touch point, every conversation, every way that you interact with colleagues, clients, the way you structure emails, presentations, all that sort of stuff, everything communicates in some way, right? So that's a bit of a mantra in a way that I've taken to every role since. And from there had a great journey with REA, realestate.com.au, spectacular business, one of Australia's, golden digital businesses born and raised. I think the journey with REA, particularly jumping into that sales sort of environment, it was the realization and the reminder that marketers don't want products. They don't want to be flung products at all. They want solutions, right? They want solutions to the problems that they're trying to solve. So, again, that's a bit of thinking that has served me really well, especially in the role that I'm in today with Ogury. So, like I said, Ogury we've launched 6 years ago. Like I said, day one for me was, 12th of March or 16th of March or thereabouts. 6 years ago, that was the day when everyone decided that we can't go outside anymore as well. So there was no strategy whatsoever in launching a business at the same time when no one was allowed to talk to each other anymore. But so even that first year, we couldn't hire. It was just myself for the first year, and then the following years we obviously built up a really spectacular team from that. And I guess looking back at it, I think the role with Ogury, it's reminded me, and everyone always says this, but it reminded me that the importance of people in the team, finding the right people, getting your right crew together to do what you need to do to make that business successful. If you overemphasize the importance of that, then every other aspect of a leadership role should be significantly easier. And it's easier said than done, but fact of the matter is we've got an incredible team, and we wouldn't be doing what we're doing today without the people in the team as well.
Yeah. I'm going to call that one out, Paul. There's another business leader who's all about people first. They're happening every show I think we've had so far.
Oh, really?
Has
Yeah.
been that statement. It's awesome. And it is true, because we're seeing the cultural shift in that way too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's a realization that if you, sorry to sort of jump back into it, but if you find the right people, and if you know that they're good at what they do, then give them the right environment to do it, right? And if that means that you need to be agile, they need to be agile in their workspace, how they work, when they work. They've got lives outside of business. They've got parenting duties, they've got sports duties, whatever it is. Let them do that thing. So long as they're bringing spectacular to the business, then great. But yeah, it's good to hear that you've heard that a lot in some of your conversations.
It kind of, just before I get into my question, reminds me of when I started working at News Corp back in 2017. It was my first management role, and I came into it with this really kind of vision in my head of the type of manager I wanted to be and the leadership style I wanted to have, and for the first kind of 18 months in that role, I kind of stuck to that. And what I realized, after about that 18-month mark was that, I don't even believe in the idea of a leadership style anymore, because I think that, the best style is no style, right? And I realized that with my team, is that I had these team members that were different individuals, and I was trying to manage them all the same. And that was working for some, but not others. And so I went through this period of change where I just basically studied leadership. Like if there was a bachelor's degree in leadership, I think I would have earned it by this point. So in how much research and reading I did, and that was one of the biggest learnings I got out of it, is that you have to be dynamic and flexible in how you kind of lead every single person, right? You have to play to their strengths and encourage their opportunities for improvement. So it's good to hear many more people out there and leaders out there kind of thinking the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so it's such a learn on the job type task as well, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no substitute for real life reps, that's for sure. For those new to Ogury, how would you explain what you do and why it matters for publishers and advertisers today?
Yeah, so Ogury is it's essentially a advertising solution that is built around this thought around persona intelligence. So in our world, we're trying to build, we're trying to target, we're trying to define personas instead of trying to target people. So it's a very privacy-focused, future-proof based, audience-based methodology. So when we talk about personas, we're talking about audiences that are completely anonymized. They share same sort of attributes, interests. They might be on similar purchase journeys, demographics, whatever it might be, but they're completely unidentifiable groups. So in that sense, we're not tracking individuals. We're not having to follow people around the internet or anything like that. So, and we're seeing a good movement to this space as well at the moment. There's definitely movement in the industry around shifting away from the assumption that you need to know every intricate detail about a consumer to be able to sell your product to them, which is simply not the case anymore. I'll give you, and sorry, Paul, this is probably diving into it a bit too deep, but I'll give you like a bit of a longer sort of view around what we're up to. So these personas that we build, they're built through a number of different data sources that we have access to. And the most critical one is being what we label as zero-party survey data. So essentially surveys, thousands of different survey questions that we're running across the open web that we're asking to consumers to find out, again, not just what and how to build those personas, but where those audiences are most likely to be, what websites they're most likely to be visiting, what pieces of content they're most likely to be reading or watching. And we then overlay a few other additional data sources, things like contextual signals, things like bid request signals, We just recently launched a partnership with MasterCard as well. So we've got MasterCard payment insights that are actually enriching those personas as well in a really unique way. So all of this is with intent to then try and connect these persona-based data, connect it to either a place or a website or a piece of content, or connect it to a geographical location. So we're really trying to understand not only what places or websites these personas most likely visit, but also where these personas are most likely to live as well. Sorry, that was way too long of an answer for you.
No, that's great. I wanted to touch on, you mentioned the term zero party there. This is, in the industry, when we're talking about data over the years and identity and cookies and all these things, there's all these terms that come up, right? Third party, second party, first party data. But the more recent one is zero party. Are you able to explain kind of to the audience what that means?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it feels like we've only just figured out what the difference is between first, second, and third, right? And now we've got to throw in zero again just to flip the script again, right? So
There'll be -1, you know that coming up soon.
yeah, that's right. And it'll be just as critical as all the others, right? It'll be
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So zero-party data in our world is essentially data that is voluntarily provided to us. It's completely unincentivized data. It's data that is not connected to a user at all, so we can't then go and follow that user by any means. I mean, the way that we use it, like I mentioned, in survey-based questions. So we'll physically be ad serving thousands and thousands of different survey questions across the open web with intent for users to see those questions, and they can choose to interact with them. They can choose to respond to them. They don't have to put their information in or anything like that. They might have 5 basic binary-based questions that will be laddering up to some type of persona, some sort of audience. And we keep running those survey questions until we get a statistical significance from them. So that's how we're essentially using it ourselves. I think there's a movement that we're starting to see. You mentioned it, Paul, already, that it's starting to pick up steam a little bit more. That you don't need first-party data to be able to just run a campaign and have a successful campaign. Zero-party data, in its sense, is as future-proof of a data offering as you can get, because you're not attaching it to anyone's information at all. You're not stealing their data. You're not being dodgy in that sense. They're giving you that information. We're asking them the questions directly. So I think it's starting to prove that you can still have a really, really robust audience-based strategy without having to rely on those traditional tactics that our industry has been built up on for so long.
Chris, this is you're talking about form data. In my head, is sounding like it's declared data from the user, identifying the traits that they've got.
Yeah.
Is that generally the assumption with zero-party data?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's around. In a lot of targeting tactics these days, you make a lot of assumptions. You make, in contextual targeting alone, you make assumptions that if someone is looking at a car article, then they are absolutely going to be buying a car in the next 3 months. You make that assumption based on the content that they're reading, right? And there's obviously a lot of science that could back that up, but we're taking it one step further, where we are physically asking the question to audiences that are going to websites like that or articles like that: are you in the market to buy an SUV in the next 3 months? Yes or no? So yeah, again, they don't have to answer the questions, but yeah, it still gives you the ability to capitalize on declared data, which you could argue is still one of the most powerful forms of I guess data that you can model off of as well.
Yep. So cool. Like I said, just the whole data industry is underpinning what we're seeing as far as the evolution into AI, where we're going now. But look, it's just find form data really important, and I'd imagine that information, obviously, as you've been highlighting, informs models that you can build out to be more accurate. Do you then, if you wanted to bring out personas on users, bringing all of that together, is that part of the mix that you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to give you an idea, we've got about it's around 300 ready to go built personas that are already ready to go. But the interesting part is that you can combine them. You can match and mix them to be able to create almost an unlimited amount of different audience combinations. So the intent then is that in a cookie ID based world, the benefit of digital advertising was you could build any audience from scratch just about, right? And obviously that the world that we're in now is that you can't do that in the traditional methods that we've had for so long. So this is a method that allows a marketer, allows an agency to build a completely bespoke audience from scratch that absolutely matches with accuracy to the initial audience that we're looking to pinpoint. But the kicker is that it's actually activatable and scalable as a result.
Do you go as far as doing psychographic profiling on users so that you'll have maybe 10 groups of users, like shoppers who are intending to purchase cars over the, or not cars but automobile products over the next 6 months or something? Is that where you're going, or where you're at?
Yeah, absolutely. It's journey mapping based questions as well. We do that both as a means to build the audiences and build the personas, but the thing that we have access to, being these survey questions, we can use that at a post insight level as well. So if a campaign is run, then we can also start to understand what were the actual motivations, what were the psychological drives that were putting someone into this journey at the moment or making a particular brand decision. So yeah, absolutely. I think I'll keep coming back to the survey questions, but yeah, they're a tool that we have access to utilize how we want to be able to build not only the best possible persona, but to understand really powerful insights that the marketer may not have access to, or can sometimes cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to actually develop.
It's a big change from when we used to do the old surveys of 500 people outside the football ground, asking them whether they like meat pies.
That's exactly it. I think there's nothing wrong with I think there's nothing wrong with traditional, call it old school methodologies, right? I mean, there's Roy Morgan's been built off of that sort of single source survey data based information for decades, and that's kind of what we're doing in that sort of space where we're trying to discover what environments, what audiences are most likely at that particular environment, website, whatever it might be. The same way that Roy Morgan's been doing it for decades, we've just taken that to a digital to a digital lens, and it's not exactly a panel based data either. It's questions that people can just choose to do it or choose not to do it. Really,
that's cool. Now, just want to have a look at some of the challenges that you're having in the APAC market at the moment. How have they shaped your approach to leading Ogury in a regional strategy?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. So I think you can, particularly that we're a global company, I think a key part of strategic leadership when you're working for a global company, when you're running a local market, is to know what you can take from other global markets, know how to reinterpret them and localize them to your own market and to your own team. There are so many intricacies that vary by country. Australia as an operating market is extremely different to what we see overseas. We're a French-based company, French headquartered company. So I think, like I mentioned, it's critical for a leadership role to know what to localize and what not to. That being said, despite the differences, there is a lot that we do learn from particularly the APAC markets that we start to lean on as well. I mean, we've got an incredibly talented, phenomenal Japanese team. Japanese leadership up there is incredible, and they've built some very enviable relationships, partnerships with very key brands, key agencies as well. And we take a lot of those learnings on ourselves. In Singapore and Southeast Asia, they're having really sophisticated brand and agency-based conversations as well that we're taking a lot of insight from. So yeah, despite all the differences, there's still so much there that you can start to leverage. I think then it's just making sure that you've got the ability to then make sure it can be interpreted locally and that your local team buys into it as well. That's something that I've noticed from Ogury leadership as well at a global level, is they are very good at respecting local ways of working, local cultures as well.
So the IAB State of Data 2025 report noted that 64% of marketers say signal loss has material impacted campaign performance. That was as of September 2025. At the same time, privacy expectations continue to rise. There's, still regulation talks going on. You mentioned hybrid audience strategies. What do they mean in practice, and why is that important today?
Yeah. So hybrid audience strategies in our world essentially means being able to operate in both an ID-based environment and an idealist-based environment. So, it means not having to rely on one tactic or be limited in one space, regardless of how the brand, regardless of how the agency wants to operate. It's been good to see the last few years. We've seen the industry do so much testing, so much learning over the last few years to try and determine what does it look like to advertise effectively in a privacy-focused world. And a lot of tests back then, they've thrown everything at one particular tactic and it hasn't scaled or it hasn't worked for whatever reason. So I think there's now this, movement across the industry where that hybrid-based thinking, capitalizing on first-party data, on alternative IDs, on newly developed signals, all of this sort of space that is building that hybrid-based methodology then starts to become really attractive. And they're starting to then see that, again, not relying on one tactic can still give you the same level of performance, same business outcomes that what you've had in a, call it cookie-based, tracking-based world for so long, but it can be done in a, more sustainable, smarter, just better way in general. So, yeah, it's a good movement. I think, and I'm sure I'll reference it a bit, that every agency, so many brands have been doing these tests for the last few years to try and determine what the right answer is. And it looks like agencies are taking a little bit of everything to develop the right sort of thinking. And that's where our model starts to play. And that's why I think a lot of solutions out there need to make sure that they have a reason to fit in or a reason to exist within this sort of hybrid-based methodology.
Is there still a reliance on third-party cookies and third-party data practices out there?
Yeah, absolutely is. I mean, call it for what it is. This Google cookieless journey that we went on for whatever, I don't know, six years-ish or thereabouts, it forced the industry to be better without cookies, let's call it. But you still see, they're still out there. You can still capitalize on insights from them, absolutely, but just don't expect it to be scalable insights. But then also, I argue if they're, is that performance of milking a cookie really going to be as beneficial as what you think it'll be? That's going to drive an uplift? I don't know. I think there's enough interesting solutions that are pushing out into the market at the moment that that is a piece of technology that is no longer required as much, I'd say.
It sounds like you believe the industry's finally accepted that identity-only models are not sustainable for the long term.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, I'd say it's again, putting all your focus into one solution, I think, is not the right tactic. And absolutely, I think that there is so much you can get from identity-based models. There's so much power, so much insights you can get from identity-based models, and the industry definitely knows that. But then they also know the limitations to it as well. The limitations around scale, the decrease in accuracy that can come about as well. So. I definitely don't think they're not going to be effective at all. I think they definitely have a really critical role to play in building an audience, but they have a role to play. It's not the role, I think, to build an effective audience strategy.
It's interesting that twice now there's been these major Google initiatives out there where the first one I'd say was Google AMP, accelerated mobile pages, and the drive behind that was to basically improve the performance of mobile web pages and kind of force digital media to build better, faster mobile pages, right? And Google AMP was super fast, but then at a certain point, it became very hard to monetize that, and then eventually Google's like, "Psych, you guys we're gonna shut this down," and then. It's the same thing with cookies, right? It's like for so many years, we're going to get rid of third-party cookies. This is all this other stuff that you guys can do instead. Yeah. Psych, you can still use it.
That's it. Yeah, I think there's you're spot on. I think there's, on this cookieless journey, we've all gone to death of cookie conferences, and every article has been pushed out around all the things that are going to fall apart and crash and burn when third-party cookies do disappear. So I think the realization then for an agency or for a brand, for a marketer or for a vendor like us is that you just can't rely on on something that has every opportunity to be impacted at some point that's outside of your control, right? I hate to say it, but we could be in a world where we go into conferences or reading articles around what happens in the death of the ID or death of the alternative ID, whatever you want to call it. Like, I'm not sure if that'll happen, but who knows? Like that's another reason why still capitalizing on other methods to build that effective audience is a far more reliable tactic that doesn't impact performance, doesn't impact business outcomes, that the industry definitely needs to turn to.
There's been I can never say this, Gartner's 2025 Marketing Technology Survey that came out in October last year, 2025. It reported that 72% of brands expect privacy-first activation models to replace identity-based targeting within the next 3 years. Are we witnessing the structural shift, not just a tactical adjustment in the industry for this?
Yeah, like I said before, the testing that's gone on, the failings that have gone on during those testing sort of stages, it's been great to see that the industry starting to discover what it's like to operate in this privacy-based world. What seems good in theory, in reality, may not be that effective at all. So, yeah, I'd say that there's also been a lot of negativity, I'd say, around privacy as a topic in advertising. Like I said before, every article you read and seminars, conferences, speeches, all that sort of stuff, it always talks about the bad things that can come from not having to operate in a privacy world. You can't do this anymore. You can't follow this person. You're not going to know that. I've got 3 kids and I live in Central Coast, and now you're not going to be able to tell me that I should drink a Coke Zero or whatever it is, right? Like, there's all these sort of negative stories that come up off the back of it. But again, I think the last 12 months, the narrative has shifted across the industry, and the narrative has shifted to realize that we're going to be fine. Like, everything's okay. The industry can still exist and be as effective as it always has been. Advertising can still be incredibly effective without relying on individual tracking. You can build a really sustainable based strategy without these sort of tools anymore. So, yeah, I'd say it's definitely it's a shift that's happened pretty rapidly, I'd say, in the last 12 months. It probably just took a few years for it to get there, though.
And I guess we've kind of touched on a few points here that lead into this question. So, we mentioned earlier that privacy regulations continue to change and evolve, and will continue to do so, especially here in Australia. And the interesting thing with all the alternative technologies, privacy enhanced technologies and IDs and all these things, is that, I guess, one way of putting it is that addressability has kind of become more fragmented because there are so many different alternatives now, whereas before, it was just basically third-party cookies. So it is a positive change, but it's also a bit of fragmentation. So how do you think that the privacy regulation evolution and the kind of that fragmentation in the availability of solutions, how do you see that kind of evolving the industry, and how is that evolving your strategy at Ogury?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's a problem that is probably in the last 6 to 12 months has been discovered a little bit more. We've gone through so many years recently of all these huge channel growths and growth in retail medias and CTVs and mobile and digital out of home. All these channels have had such incredible and understandable growth trajectories that now there's a bit of a take a step back and start to realize, all right, well, what does an audience look like across all of these channels? You can't just define an audience no longer just based on a channel-based metrics, platform-based metrics, or anything like that. If you need to deliver a truly effective audience-based strategy, then you need similar, consistent, unified sort of methodology, regardless of the screen, regardless of the channel that they're on. Now, on our side, that's sort of our sort of big next sort of steps. We've been born and raised in the mobile world. We transitioned into taking personas into a desktop space a number of years ago. We've just launched CTV as well. The next area for us is jumping into digital audio, digital out of home, retail media space, that sort of thing. But the key kicker is that it's always going to be fueled by persona-based thinking, and privacy-focused links between each of those channels, which is why, again, like I mentioned before, all of the data that we are collecting, or that the persona information that we're building, we're connecting it to an environment, to a website location, or to a piece of content, but then we're also connecting it to geographies. We're connecting it to postcodes. And that postcode level qualification, postcode level thinking, then opens up so many other channel discussions that you can have as well, which obviously, digital out-of-homes then become an interesting play off the back of that. But again, to answer your initial question, it's that initial methodology, that unified, consistent methodology. The way that we're defining an audience in mobile is the exact same way that we're interpreting that audience in any other channel as well. You don't need to define your audience in 7 different ways for 7 different channels.
Yeah, Chris, let's get into Ogury One. You've launched a new platform recently. How does Ogury One operationalize your approach and practice?
Yeah, so it's a good segue actually. The Ogury One's basically our engine, I guess is the easiest way to put it. It's the tool that we have access to on our side to build these personas, to build them from scratch, to activate the personas, to optimize, optimize based off of really unique triggers and really unique signals as well. So that's our secret tool basically, but no longer a secret. We're letting the market take the keys basically. So it's exciting. It's you could call it a self-serve tool, I'd say, but call it for what it is. The reality of the market, agencies, brands don't love to have to learn another tool at all. So I think the exciting piece about Ogury One is that it can have a complete API integration into any agency planning tool, any brand planning tool as well. What we're seeing it be a really interesting answer for is again one of the limitations in a privacy-focused world we're hearing more and more is the disconnect between strategy level planning and activation. So like I've said, so much time, so much money goes into trying to define your best possible audience, define what that audience should look like. But then there's a big disconnect when it comes to actually activating. There's a big drop off of accuracy without the use of sort of traditional IDs, and drop off of scale as well. So you can sort of imagine where this goes then. We are essentially then mapping the specific audience profiles, the specific audience definitions, which in many cases are built from surveys as well, like Roy Morgan's, TGI's, GWI's, etc. And we're mapping them to our personas to be able to create a completely activatable, accurate persona, and to deliver that at scale. So I'm excited about it. It's gaining really strong traction as well. It's building a lot of really powerful, a lot of deep relationships with a number of agencies globally at the moment, a number of brands globally at the moment, and it allows an agency to create more effectiveness, I'd say, to their own existing suite of tools as well.
How does it surface in the agency's UI, and what platforms are they accessing it through? It's essentially through their own bespoke-based tools that they've developed themselves. There's no fixed tool that they need to be able to have on their side to be able to access it all. It's a completely bespoke-based, API-based integration that we adjust to them basically. Every integration that we've had with agencies globally at the moment is feeding in a different way. Okay.
So we've talked about zero-party data already earlier. Is that, just to touch on that one more time, do you see that as increasingly being critical to kind of the audience, profiling and targeting ecosystem today in the industry?
Yeah. I think that there needs wider adoption, wider understanding about it. Like I said, they've just figured out first, second, and third party data, and they now need to understand zero-party data. And I think once there is that shift away from, continued shift away from not having to worry about people's information as much and capitalizing on something as robust as zero-party data, then absolutely, I think it'll start to take, and it's beneficial for us as well. If more vendors in our space, if more solutions out there do start to utilize that zero-party data thing, the collective boost from the industry is a good thing for anyone. As much as we can bring greater sustainability and better, safer data practices to the industry without sacrificing on brands being successful, that's only going to be a good thing.
Chris, we're hearing a lot about agentic artificial intelligence and media technology systems that can plan, optimize, and transact autonomously. I'm personally a big fan of this. How is agentic AI changing what's possible for digital advertising, and where do you think the hype is currently ahead? Sorry, I should say, do you think the hype is ahead of the reality and where we are right now and where it's going?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah?
I do.
Okay.
I think it's I know. Oops, sorry. It's an interesting space. I think machine learning AI has been part of our industry for so long. It's the way that it's the way that we've been doing large scale bidding, large scale optimizing. So I mean that part's not new at all, right? So it's been around for a good decade now. But now we're seeing interesting things around AI agents being able to take a specific goal, breaking that goal up into sequential tasks and being able to deliver to a very specific outcome, testing all these individual methods, testing all these individual tactics to decide what the best path forward is for a delivery. But the limitation's still there. I mean, we're like what I just said, its ability to optimize properly or make decisions properly, it's still platform-based decision making. It's still restricted to the walls of that platform, that Meta, that Google, whatever it might be. So until it can, act outside of those barriers, it's not going to be as effective yet as I guess we would probably hope it to be. And with that, I mean, you need really effective cross-industry collaboration to get to a point where across publishers, across vendors, across brands, across agencies, that they can agree on a unified AI-based agent API, I guess you could call it, that is effective across every platform, that everyone agrees with, that they agree with the transparency, they agree with the modeling to it, that it doesn't lean to any bias towards any platforms as well. So, you're right. The hype is absolutely there. I just don't know if we're there yet with the, if we can back it up with the reality just yet, I'd say.
Yes.
And I guess how is this affecting Ogury's strategy? It's a pretty broad question, but and what role do you guys play in that space at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, you can imagine the huge amount of data signals that we're building at the moment. I guess the top one way to look at it is that when you lose signals, like we are in a signal loss sort of world at the moment, then you need to create new ones. You need to create and build new signals. And as we've got about 7 or 8 different data layers that feed into our own persona-based methodology. Mapping and extrapolating that is an enormous challenge, right? And that's something that AI agents are great at the moment. Call it for what it is. It's a phenomenal play to be able to take on, high repetitive, high required sort of tasks, I guess. So that's definitely that's definitely how we use it on our side at the moment. It also allows us to even enter new markets quite quickly. If we don't have a proper understanding around an audience profile in a country that we don't have offices in at the moment, or that we haven't operated in and built up an understanding over the last few years, then we can use our sort of AI-based understanding to be able to operate in that market or open in that market a lot quicker, or run campaigns in that market just as effectively as we can run them here as well.
Yeah, right. That's interesting. It makes total sense. I guess before we move on, I just wanted to ask you a quick question, kind of stepping back a little bit. If, my kind of primary, focus at the moment for my publisher clients, for my business LMC is building out a monetization engine, right, in this new kind of zero-click search world that we're in, and looking at, if you're building out a brand new, not brand new, but if you're building out a commercial strategy, commercial technology stack based on the needs of tomorrow, how would you build that? What would the foundations look like? You talked to Ari Papara a while back about how, ad tech on the publisher side has largely been doing the same thing with some minor evolutions for the last 10 years. And we're now at this inflection point where things are evolving quite a lot in that space. So if we were looking at that kind of modern, 2026 and onwards, commercial technology strategy for a publisher, what role would Ogury play in that environment?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really important topic, right? I mean, we're excited about this journey that that AI is going to take us all through, but the reality is it has negative implications if we keep going on the same path that it's probably taking us on at the moment. I'd say, I mean, reality is we've got shortening consumer journeys right now. We've got every product out there is incredibly easy to buy or to decide what product to buy, right? I mean, the journey that you go on for a car journey used to be 3 to 6 months. You could figure out pretty quickly what car you're going to be purchasing through new technologies that we have today within a couple of days, right? I'd be panicking if I was able to do that, but you could do it, right? And that's probably an extreme exaggeration of where that journey mapping is going to be going. So then the negative impact is then on the publishers being able to have had a role in that deciding that purchase decision making process, right? So I think as an industry, and particularly back to role of marketers and role of brands, is to make sure that the upper funnel brand-based marketing importance, the brand love, the brand perceptions that have always been a key call out in every marketing or every market dynamic change that we've seen, particularly in COVID, for example, the last few years. If you start to deviate away from brand-based marketing, brand-based thinking, then it's going to have a really negative impact on that final purchase decision. So as a platform like Ogury, and we have a solution that touches every major touch point, I guess, across the marketing funnel. But it's our job to make sure that the importance of that full funnel based marketing remains true, and that we can make sure that publishers in Australia remain sustainable. Because you can look ahead 5 to 10 years, and you can see if something is not done now and pivoted now, then it could be a tricky journey ahead for a lot of local publishers.
Yeah, I asked the question genuinely just out of my own curiosity, because as I said, I am kind of building out that commercial technology engine for my clients right now, and working out who the key kind of what the key elements of that modern strategy needs to look like. I mean, we talk about traffic losses of 70-80% for some publishers, but I think one thing that I don't know if is getting talked about as much is that we're seeing revenue losses potentially even greater than 70-80%, because those traffic losses are having flow-on effects on kind of the market confidence in certain brands. So revenue drops, in the programmatic ecosystem, people aren't bidding as much on these brands. And it's not because the brand is any less premium or reliable than it was yesterday. It's just literally the traffic has gone down. So anyway, David, your floor.
Yeah, that's all right. I want to jump in. Sorry, Chris, go for it.
Yeah, I was just going to add. I think we're in a, I don't know, it's so easy for marketers to just throw all their money into the idea or the platform or the solution that seems to have the most amount of lights shining on it, or the most amount of directly attributable success in a way, right? But call it for what it is. I think as an industry in the last few years, a lot of publishers, a lot of vendor solutions out there have tried to do this. They've tried to fight against these big players. They've tried to fight and take money away from these sort of solutions, which that's a battle that's just not going to be won at all. I think we need to, be able to pivot solutions that make those platforms, make those decision making, to make those final purchase decisions in whatever environment they might be, make them as easy as possible. I think the challenge then is making sure that measurement. I think we'll be in a year of measurement, it seems like at the moment, but making sure measurement is properly attributing the entire journey that purchaser has gone through, regardless of what channel they're on as well. So yeah, measurement's going to be a key one. Measurement will have to keep up with the evolutions, I guess, of this new purchase journey.
Chris, I want to get into the strategy for Ogury. Obviously, Australia, New Zealand's a really big play for you personally, obviously, being in this region. What's your vision for the future of advertising in APAC, and where does Ogury fit in that vision?
Yeah, it's funny. Like I was thinking about this the other day with someone. The future, particularly in the next sort of few years, it used to be that you could pretty clearly, or you could pretty confidently guess what's going to happen in 3 years' time. And you could develop a whole strategy around that with a lot of confidence. Now, I think what we've seen is that we're no longer in an era where you can very confidently put all of your focus into one certain direction, because things definitely change at incredible rates right now. Right, and 3 years is now a long time away, but things will change incredibly quickly. Right, so. One thing I can be certain of is that Ogury, since they've been born and raised, they have developed, or they've pivoted towards solutions that may not be needed there and then, but they will be needed in 2, 3, 4 years' time. So I know that Ogury will keep being that sort of play that's going to pivot quite quickly and evolve quite quickly. The journey that both markets, Australia and New Zealand, are going on at the moment, this privacy-based journey, Australia a little bit more ahead at the moment, but it's creating the perfect conditions for us at the moment. I see a greater response to our persona-based thinking over the next few years. The testing is going to keep going on over the next few years as well, and I'm confident that it's going to highlight an even greater reason for us to exist in this market as well. And I think that's why Ogury Global is so excited about this region at the moment. It's still in its infancy, I'd say. We've been here for 6 years and we've barely scratched the surface, I think, but there's a lot of excitement around what's going to come in.
Yeah, I want to jump in and find out from you, what's one principle that's guided your career? Because you've had an astounding career to date. Kind of curious to see where that principle is for you.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I mean, I kind of blabbered on about my journey at the beginning of the show around what I picked up from around relationships and your personal brand and all that sort of stuff. And I think I'd say that's probably the most critical one that I've kept with every job, every role, every relationship, every touch point, every partnership you establish, anyone that you work with in your business and you interact with clients or as a client yourself, every touch point needs to be spectacular. I think every touch point needs to have meaning to it, because it's those relationships, it's that personal brand that you build is going to have enormous positive impact on your professional brand, your personal brand, and that opens up opportunities that you may not get. They may not get allies, especially in our sort of space. I mean, you really need to, when you move into a particularly sales-based role, revenue driving roles. You really hope that the relationships or the brand that you built up over the years is strong enough that you can then pick up conversations, pick up opportunities with those contacts over years as well. So yeah, that would probably be the most critical one. Make sure every relationship, every touch point that you have is a strong one.
And I guess what would you kind of see as success for you personally leading, the Ogury business, APAC, and I guess what does it mean to you to be leading that group at this time?
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely get to the people part, but I think the success for us locally, it's going to be deepening partnerships with a lot of big brands globally or big brands locally. A lot of deepening agency partnerships as well. I see, like I mentioned before, I see this persona-based methodology. I'm excited to see that get a lot more traction and be more widely adopted. Zero-party data adoption as well, like we said before. I mean, I'm the proudest thing that that we've got with Ogury at the moment, I would say, we've been in market for 6 years, and we haven't had a resignation from the team at all, which I'm really proud about. Sure, we've had, I'll call it for what it is. We've had, someone meant to go travel the world for 2 years, and envy of everyone. She's still out there traveling 2 years later as well, and we've had someone move to our UK office as well. So I'll let those ones slide, but I'm really proud that we've built an environment where I hope it seems that people feel like they can be their best with us, that they can do their thing, that they're comfortable, that they're driven, that they're engaged, and in the future, I want to see that team remain the same. Obviously, be bigger, but still be just as engaged as they are today. Still be just as curious and engaged, and growing at the rate that they might be growing today. So yeah, I think it's the people piece is definitely the going to be the kicker for me, I'd say.
Chris, it's been awesome to have you on the show. Unfortunately, we've reached time. It's been fantastic to hear what Ogury's up to, and really valued the insights that you've shared with us today. So thank you very much for joining us on the conversation. And I'd like to thank everybody else for watching and listening to us today. Thank you. And we look forward to you joining us next time here on Media Tech Talk.
Hi, I'm Jason Barnes, Chief Revenue Officer for Asia Pacific at Programmatic. Join me next on Media Tech Talk as we explore how Programmatic is shaping the future of independent media infrastructure, from intelligent automation and supply efficiency to what real transparency and control looks like in a rapidly evolving market. So here's the question. When demand-side platforms are moving directly into offering sell-side functionality and artificial intelligence is opening the door to agent-led solutions, what role does an independent platform like Programmatic play, and how do you stay ahead in a market that's changing this fast? Join me in the conversation that's inspiring media minds. That's next on Media Tech Talk.